Hey everyone, welcome back to the TraderLion channel. My name is Richard Moglen, and with me is Ross Haber. And this is our Chart of the Week series, where each week we highlight one of the top setups from the top 10 report that Ross puts out twice a week. If you want more information on that, the link will be down below in the description. And today we'll be talking through the chart of COIN, Coinbase, and discussing a possible entry sometime next week. So Ross, why don't we start off with taking a look at this chart here in stock charts and just kind of tell me what you like about the price action and also the entries that you've highlighted here with your label.
Okay, thanks, Richard. So for starters, and I guess I could have put a circle around it, you can see we've got the tightness built, on that launching pad that we talk about, where the moving averages all converge into a tight bunch. We had volume drying up as it tightened up, and then you can see volume picks up and then continues to increase for the next several days, and the stock just gaps up, takes off, and finally took a breather last Thursday. So at this point, the one where we don't have a line marking it here, but the first key number that gets my eye is the 300 mark, that Jesse Livermore
level
par, yeah. Right? So we've got a brand new IPO here. Cryptocurrencies are rocking and rolling. So coin is going to be one of those crypto related stocks. And we can see the power that's come up the right side. So what I'm looking at here, rather than going with 300, which is not a bad place to play the stock off of, and we can see we closed right
over that,
just a hair above that point. But you can see where we got support on Friday was at this 294 mark. So in my mind, here's what I'm looking at. Even though we had this big, powerful move here, we did get a pullback to its 50-day, and ultimately we weren't ready, and we shook out. The market was weak and all of that jazz. So in my mind, I think, what's the weakest this stock could get and still be fine? We could easily pull back to, so assuming we continue to be strong and Coinbase continues to outperform the market, which has been the case, there really hasn't been a whole lot of weakness to buy. I think it's still very reasonable to try and buy the stock around 294 with sell stops at this 280.61 mark. We are, I'd say, a tad late. This is your first early point. Actually, your first early spot, if truth be told, would be here. We gapped through it. Okay, so there was a news catalyst there that all that volume came into, and I just looked. I think earnings aren't going to be coming up for another couple of weeks for this one. So given that strength, my idea is to at least put on a starter at this 294 mark. If we get weakness and we saw everything gap down, we're going to watch Coinbase around this key number, which is the sell stop from this point, assuming we have strength. But on weakness, we've now got the 10-day moving average there. You could then play this stock off of this point. And to me, the most logical stop is going to be the low of that gap. So I guess this is something to think about, possibly including on the future top 10s instead of keeping it to the two most relevant at that time. But it's not fair to say that it would be any less relevant to try and play it off this point right here, where that 280.61 coincides with its 10-day moving average, and picking a spot somewhere down here, whether it be the 23, and you can see that 23-day EMA
catching up, yeah,
coincides right with the low of that gap. So that's another place to play this. I guess this could have essentially had 3 entry points. So I know that was super long-winded, but so to be fair, that would be the first spot you'd want to be looking at, this area on weakness, if we got there on Monday morning. Otherwise, just like we have in the report, I'd be looking at 294 as a logical area to buy the stock with stops down here at the confluence of its 10-day and 280. And if we were to see the continued strength, as much as in this market, I will tend to shy away from buying these streaks of strength, and it may seem short-term extended. You can see we've just moved
25% or so, 30%. Yeah,
that was a super, super sharp move. However, what we're looking at here, this IPO, we're just about halfway up the right side of a potential IPO U-turn. So in that respect, we're still somewhat early. And if you go back, I don't have a specific precedent for coin, but if we look back at some of the more recent IPOs, we are getting this sharp move up the right side, and they're breaking out and holding up fairly well. So That being the characteristic of, most of the IPOs and what we're seeing, the market's been strong, the breadth has been really strong. Highlighted this scenario here, but if for some reason, news knocks us back down to here, that's when you take it onto an intraday chart, and of course look for confirmation that that's going to be the low for the day, and that, whether we're making a U-turn on an intraday chart or whatever it is. I just wanted to put that out there if we do walk into some weakness in the morning.
Perfect.
Other than that, I think we're super early, right? We'll be watching for the stock to come up the right side, ideally consolidate, and we can add, depending on what you've got on now, maybe you will ultimately want a 20% position and you get, 7 to 10 or 12% long down here, and look to pile on whatever, anything extra as it continues to prove itself and moves back towards the IPO highs.
Perfect. Let's move on now to MarketSmith and talk the fundamentals a little bit, which are super impressive for Coin. I'll just run through them quickly. Look at the quarterly numbers. First of all, this reminds me of Zoom's incredible numbers from last year, just an explosion in earnings, sales, margins, and also taking a look at the annual numbers for this year. It's supposed to be up 655%. Next year, it's supposed to definitely take a hit, but the estimate revisions for that are up. So we'll have to see how that plays out. And also looking at the fund ownership, a nice increasing trend, a little bit of a dip this most recent quarter, but we'll have to see how the most recent numbers are for this stock, given the explosion of volume that we saw last week. And we've got 2 of those flagship funds invested as well. So as Ross mentioned, we've got earnings in 16 days, so still plenty of time to take up a position if you don't have one already, if it presents a nice setup. And Ross, any kind of last words about the chart of Coin or the fundamentals, anything you see?
No, that would it. Just the same message that I've kind of been sharing all along in this market is don't let your emotions and the FOMO get the best of you. Just be patient, even if you feel like you're missing a key point on Coin. Your best bet is either going to be to wait for it to get. You'd be surprised how many chances you'll still get to buy the same stock you're worried about, or even just focusing on another one. There's tons of setups out there, and if Coin doesn't, let's say you miss something, we're still very early in the move. Move on to something else and come back to it. So I mean, Coin is definitely it's super exciting. You see all these huge numbers. We're starting to get the volume push up the right side, but don't get excited and feel like you have to buy it in a hurry.
Right.
That would be my main advice.
Absolutely. No, always important to remember that you have to wait for a proper setup where you can manage the risk, no matter what stock you're trading. So with that, we'll kind of call it there. Thanks so much for watching. If you did enjoy this, please go ahead and hit the like button down below and subscribe if you're new to the TraderLion channel. And we'll see you guys in future videos. Thanks.